I've covered crappy artwork, vectoring bitmaps, JPEGs, stuff like that. But what happens when somebody gives you extremely high quality artwork? I had to do this badge, and I actually got the AI file from this police department. Hopefully they won't come and arrest me for using this. So let's take a look at this. So this is really top-notch work. Whoever did this did a really, really good job. It's nice. It's really clean. It's fully vectored. But the problem with this is it's almost too good. So what's the problem with this is these are all layers. So these are closed vectors that overlap each other. Okay. And you still can't vector this as an AI file. If we control all and select it, you can see where all the layers are there. They're all complete. They're stacked in a way that when you're looking at it, it looks like a nice clean image. So let's see what happens if we just try to use this in EasyCAD. So let's bring in, I had already saved this. So this is the badge full, saved in version 3. This is what it looks like. So it brings in all the layers in their entirety. And you can't vector this. Let me ungroup it. Just going to get rid of the guidelines that are in the AI file. And just for kicks and giggles, let's try to hatch this. So I'm using 3 pens, 3 tools. And it's going to take a little while because this is pretty complex. Any minute now. There you go. That is total caca. You can not do anything with that. So let's delete that. So let's take a look at some options in Illustrator. What can we do with this? It's clean artwork. We don't want to redo this completely. So there's a couple of options. So if you select all, Control A, and you open the Pathfinder tool, and you go to Pathfinder. Over here, there's a couple of options down here. There's divide, there's trim, there's merge, and there's crop. If we take all of this and we merge it, it's going to merge it down to one level. Okay. It's going to take all the intersections and it's going to make complete. It's going to get rid of all the backgrounds. Okay. So let me ungroup this. And you'll see now that we have individual closed vectors. Okay. Let's see what this gets us. So let me select all of this like I normally do. I'm going to get rid of all the fill. I'm going to give the stroke a color, and I'm going to minimize the stroke. Now, if you remember in my prior videos, when you see darker lines, there's usually the reason for that is that there's duplicate layers. So I'm going to delete this, and you see it didn't go anywhere because it's 2 layers. So this would be a total pain in the neck to try to go in and delete every single double vector. Very time consuming. It would probably be the cleanest way to do it if it was going to be something large and needed to be really, really detailed. But most of the time I'm doing stuff on firearms, and this is going to be, you know, something that's going to be extremely small. You're not going to be able to appreciate the fine details on some of the stuff. So what's my other options? Let's undo this. Get back to the original image. Okay. So there's a couple other tools here. They're also useless. And you can go through and you can try these. Unite makes a mess. Minus front makes a mess. We can divide it. that gives us all the vectors. We tried merge. Let's try trim, because a trim has the same effect as merge. If we get rid of the fills and we give the stroke a color, turn the point size down, we have that same problem with we have double vectors. Let's ungroup it, and we'll see here if I select this, I delete it. See, again, double vectors, stack vectors, more or less. So what does that leave us? What's our options here? For something like this that's extremely clean, I found the best way to do this is to file, export it as a TIFF image, because TIFF uses the least amount of compression, and then export it. Okay. Over here for resolution, select high resolution. Color mode really doesn't matter. I haven't tried grayscale. Let's try grayscale. And let's click OK. Now what we're going to do is we're going to open up a new AI folder. I just usually use letter size. No, I don't want to update. And then I'm going to go down here. I'm going to go to place. I'm going to find my TIFF image. I'm going to bring my TIFF image in. Okay. So over here you got to embed this. Flatten this to a single layer, a single image, because we don't want the layers as objects. We want a flat image. Okay, and you can see it got pixelated because it is an image, but it's still really pretty high quality. And now we're going to go through the same old method. Now we're going to trace this. So we're going to go to image trace. I'm going to pull down open up my image trace window. We're going to go to advanced, ignore whites, and we're going to notice a couple of things. Now here's where you got to pay attention. So we lost the inside of the A, the letters look a little funky. Come over here to views. We want to see the tracing with the outlines. Again, the teal color is going to be what actually gets vectored. And we're going to concentrate on some of these smaller details. And we're going to start playing with some of these settings. So let me get rid of this. And let's look at some of this stuff here. So this was pretty clean. There's probably not too much noise. And if you start playing with some of these sliders, you're going to see all the squares disappeared here because it thinks it's noise. So I'm going to turn the noise all the way down, because I want as much detail as I can out of this. Now you see we got the A back in, the center of the A. That had to do with noise. If we had this where it was as default, see we lose the center of the A. So as we're doing this, we're trying to make sure we're not altering the original image too far. Some of the lines don't look too good. Let's see what happens if we increase the paths. That looks a lot better. And really got to kind of play around with these settings. If we lower the threshold, it looks a little bit too thin. The railing kind of got squished out. So let's bring the threshold back up. That looks a little better. Corners, we can go higher corners. Now here's what happens if you go high corners. On some of this stuff, it's going to look a little too jagged. Actually, that looks pretty good. If we were to jack the paths up, there we go. So now we got raggedy edges. So let's dial that back down a little bit. And there we go, straight lines. All right. This actually looks pretty good. So now what we're going to do is we're going to expand this. We're going to take out the fill colors. We're going to give the stroke a color. And I'm holding shift when I click on this. So if you just click on it, you'll get this. Hold shift and you'll just get this. I'm going to turn the point size down to 0.25. And it kind of looks like maybe we have double vectors because we see that darker, couple of darker sections. But if you go in here, let's pick one. So let's pick this one. Oh, we got to ungroup it all first, so we can just select that. Oop. Okay, sometimes you got to ungroup. There we go. Now if I delete that, we can see that's a single vector. We scroll out and we look for something that maybe looks a little dark. We're maybe not sure if it's a double vector, like this castle part here. Let's release the compound path because we just want that, and we delete it. Okay, so that's a single vector also. So that looks pretty good. So now we're going to do is we're going to file, save as, AI. I already have it here, so I'm going to just overwrite this file. Yes, I want to replace it. We're going to go to Illustrator, back it down to Illustrator 3, click OK, OK again, and in Cad2, we're going to go to File, Import Vectors, get that file, open it, and remember, see how it looks like you may have double vectors in there because you see it's darker. That's just because they're pretty close together. And we can check that. Select it. Ungroup it. And let's see, we're still thinking, oh, well, maybe you see this is all dark here. You might think that those are double vectors. Select one and delete it. And you'll see it's a single vector. So, what are we going to do? We're going to select the whole thing. And we're going to hatch it. Again, I'm using, for this example, I'm using all 3 pens. This is the zigzag pattern, and a cleanup pattern. And depending on how you were going to engrave this, you would, play around with some of the settings. So, one thing with Cad2, sometimes you get some drawing errors. Looks like the windows and the posts are smashed together. If I can zoom in here, and you zoom in far enough, you'll see that those are separated. But when when you're zoomed out, it can't draw that detail, and that looks pretty good. So even though sometimes you might get a really, really high quality piece of artwork, it doesn't always mean that you can go straight to engraving it. Sometimes you're still going to need to play with it. And that's what I wind up doing when I have something that's really high quality. A lot of times I'll revert back to converting it to an image and then tracing it. So that's all for now. It's just in case you didn't know what to do with something that was high quality in layers. There's a couple ways to do it. One's going to be faster than the other. Depending on how big it's going to be or how much detail you need, you may have to go in and delete all the individual vectors. It'll be a lot cleaner than converting it to a TIFF image and tracing it. But you have to consider what it's going on and the size it's going to be finished. Anyway, that's all for now. All right, bye.